If you have silver right now and you want to sell it, it's a fantastic time to sell it with the price of silver at $50 an ounce right now, beating all-time highs from both the Hunt brothers in the 80s as well as the 2011 spike after the economic crisis in 2009. But depending on what you bought, you might not be able to sell it. So we're going to talk about how you can actually sell your silver right now in a time where it might actually be impossible for some people to actually sell it. Let's talk about it. Right now it's October the 12th. It's about 9:30 at night, so the market's not open. We don't know what it's going to do tomorrow, but right now there is a very interesting piece of news that came out last week. A lot of us dealers got the email from Elemental that they are no longer going to be buying 90% silver coins, 40% silver coins, 35% silver coins. They're not buying junk silver. They're not buying scrap. They're not buying sterling. And they're not buying, get this, 1 ounce and 5 ounce 999 bullion pieces or miscellaneous weight generic bullion. Now that does not include sovereign silver. That does not include American Eagles, Britannias, Maples, Krugerrands, all that kind of stuff. That's separate by their standard at Elemental. But the SKU number that associates with anything that's not sovereign silver up to 5 ounces for common weights, and anything that's an odd weight that's not like a 10 or a 100 ounce bar are. So they are buying 10s, 100 ounces, stuff like that, but when it comes to the smaller stuff, they're not buying it. And that's become a big issue. There's a lot of dealers right now sitting there wondering how they can be fair with their customers when this ticker behind them says $50 an ounce, and they don't know when they'll be able to capitalize on that money if they need to sell it to a refinery. There are a lot of dealers right now asking the question, what do I pay? Where am I safe to still do right by my customers, but still make sure that I don't lose astronomical sums of money in the process? And there are a lot of dealers sitting on those particular items that I mentioned that are not able right now to take it to the refineries they've depend on to move that material because they say, we've had enough, we're not taking any more. I want to talk a few minutes about what's going on here, how this is going to impact you, and really what to do with it. Because what it seems is going on, I think there's a couple theories I've heard, and I'm going to actually have a video coming up on later on this week where I sit down with another dealer and we have a little fireside chat about what's happening with silver. But in the meantime, there is some talk about them being at capacity for what they can actually refine. The refining process is bottlenecking the supply chain to get that stuff out, so they're basically not buying any more of it because they've got plenty to refine already and it needs to be refined and then shipped out. That's one thing I've heard. I have not been able to verify that beyond just through the grapevine kind of stuff. What I think is also happening here is we literally hit all-time silver highs, and I think that refiners in the U.S. are also trying to hedge their bets. They're trying to protect themselves against a potential movement downwards because silver has not moved up gradually. It has literally just shot up with no basis that it's really structured on. You see, when normally stuff moves up, it moves up over time in kind of phases. It will move up to a new area, and it'll move back down and test a support line from the resistance that it moved through is now a support line that it kind of tests to make sure that it can go back down to those numbers and then safely stay there and not just fall through it and keep going down. And it kind of moves up and down a little bit like that, and then eventually it'll bump through again, move through a new resistance and start making newer highs, and it does the whole process, rinse and repeat. But that's not what we've seen with silver. We've seen very, very quick movement up. We've seen one-day testing of supports where sometimes it does come back down to that support line, and the next day it's breezing back through the next resistance point up to a new level. And it's done that all the way up, and it's made it very uncomfortable for people to know what the true support is right now. Like where, if it does come back, is a safe value to estimate it's going to come back to, because you just don't see it. I mean, pretty much down into the 30s. We don't know where it would hit if it did just absolutely fall. Now, do I think silver is just going to fall like that? No. But if it were to, where would it go? We don't really know. So I think refiners, if they do have that bottleneck especially, are recognizing that if they don't have something in place to really have a basis anywhere close to where they're at now with spot price, that they could really easily get caught with their pants down when if silver does have a correction and it does come back, and they might end up having tons of silver that they bought at $50 an ounce spot pricing basis, where they buy a percentage back of that, and then they end up having way lower prices they can actually sell it at if that were to happen. So that is unprecedented, and it is affecting customers in several ways. As I said, coin dealers don't really know what to pay right now. A lot of coin dealers are sitting on silver already because a lot of people have recognized silver is up and they want to sell it because they want to capitalize on their investment. That motivation to sell, because people do have a profit in it now and they want to realize that profit with at least some of that profit, with selling at least some of their silver while it's up. They do have a lot of silver coming into the shop, and they do have a lot on hand a lot of times. Then on top of that, since they can't sell it, they're now having to buy it back, and they don't have a clue of where to actually buy it at because they don't know when it's going to be that they can refine it again. And also, remember, every dollar a dealer ties up into something that they can't move is a dollar they can't put into something else, and a dollar that they can't feed their families with or pay their bills with. And since they can't eat silver, if they tie up a lot of their money into silver at high enough prices, it might tie up every bit of capital they have to be able to deal with. And then they can't buy stuff that they know they can sell right now, like gold, because for some reason we can easily sell gold every day of the week, it feels like. You can't get enough gold. So right now, when you go to sell your silver, I highly recommend you call around to different coin shops, to a lot of different people, and see what they're paying. Some refineries are probably still open and operating just normal, and depending on who that dealer is operating with their refinery will determine probably how far back of spot they are right now and what they're willing to pay. And it's also going to probably be some pretty wild spreads between dealers of what they're paying on silver right now. And it's not because one of them's trying to rip you off. It's because we really just have no clue. This is unprecedented. There's no textbook for this. There's no rhyme or reason to what we should pay because we don't have crystal balls to tell us the future, and so it's made it a little bit more uncertain. With that, when you go to sell silver, I do recommend you call around, and you can expect to be paid less than you would expect to be paid. I've talked to other dealers. Some of them have said they've gone 17% back of spot price right now. Some of them have said lower numbers than that, but the number I'm seeing is it's over 10%, because roughly 10% was probably where a lot of dealers were before this situation, because the wholesalers had pulled back, and then the dealer was going to make like 4 or 5% on the stuff as silver has moved up. But now it's up in the air, and the dealers are afraid they're the ones that are going to get stuck with their pants down if they pay too strongly on it. So it's really kind of a wild card right now. And I do want to address something really quickly that I know a lot of people are talking about on here. It's all over the place. Every video I watch on this topic, people are bringing it up, and I just want to get this out there. That guru who's telling you that silver is going to go to 100 by the end of the year, as well as that guru who's telling you that silver is going to go back to $25 by the end of the year, are just as reliable as this plastic piece of crap. I can shake it up and it'll be just as reliable as those guys are, because nobody knows what silver is going to do. It's based off way more than just technical analysis, the gold to silver ratio, and what it's done in the past. It's dependent upon things that are happening in real time that we don't know what is going to happen. Things that are happening in the market, things that are happening economically, national policies economically that are being passed by our government, all sorts of stuff is making this happen, and it's not something we can predict. It's not something that somebody can just tell you, this is exactly where it's going to go. I predict this. And it's why I refuse to tell anybody that silver is going to go to any particular number, up or down, because I think this literally is just as reliable as me or anybody else telling you that kind of crap. And I have good reason to say that as well. I watch a lot of the technical analysis these guys are doing, and it's just honestly kind of misinformed because we're not seeing standard technical analysis available here. We've got a run that doesn't make any sense when you strictly look at it technically. In fact, technically, you would expect it to just pull back, not go up, but it's not. It's continuing to just run up. Every time you think it's going to have a correction for at least a week, it doesn't. It just goes up again. It doesn't make any sense. And when you talk about gold to silver ratio, a lot of the guys talking about gold to silver ratio, I don't think have a clue of what they're talking about when it comes to modern treatment of gold and silver. Gold and silver ratio was 100% made perfect sense when both gold and silver were treated by governments and on the world stage as monetary instruments. So gold is still treated as a monetary instrument and held by countries around the world as a monetary instrument, and it is definitely a monetary instrument, but silver is not treated that way anymore. I know people will say it's a conspiracy to suppress silver, but regardless of why, it's still on the market not treated as a monetary instrument. It's treated as a commodity for tech, and by investors like me, private individual investors in silver, it may still be seen as something that is kind of a monetary instrument. But when it comes to the world stage, it's not. It's not treated that way. But ever since silver was taken out of coins, and ever since countries moved away from that as something that really backs money, it's not seen that way. And so the guys relying on the gold to silver ratio to tell you whether or not silver is going to go up or not are out of touch by decades with the way silver has been treated by the overall world economically. And all the while they're complaining about it, saying, oh, it's a suppression of silver conspiracy. And really what it is, it's just changed. It's just different than it used to be. Now, do I believe that silver is still a good investment for private individuals as a semi-monetary instrument kind of thing, where it is a precious metal that has some tie to some value in a similar way to gold? Yes, I do. That's why I buy it. But I think right now it's treated as a commodity on the world stage, more so than it's treated as that. Now, we have seen somewhat of a squeeze on silver in the past week with some massive amounts of shorting of silver, with futures being traded and stuff like that. So we have seen something that looks like a short squeeze, but it might not really be a short squeeze. It might literally be people thinking this is as high as it goes, because it is in unprecedented territory. So I don't really know if it's so much people intentionally trying to manipulate silver so much as it is the fact that some people might really be concerned with where it's at. But that being said, silver spot price has survived even some massive sales in the futures market and some massive moves that should have pulled it down. So silver is really strong right now. And that's where I want to move on to next, away from the what could be, what might be, to the what is. Silver is performing strongly. The demand for it is there. The retail market is pulling silver up despite a lot of bigger players betting on its downfall and trying to see it come down. I do think silver is low for the value it provides to us in technology as well as just in general. I think it has been low. Knowing basic ideas of mineable silver, how much is mined and what's being used, it does seem cheap, and that's why I've been buying it. Not because I think the gold-silver ratio is off or it's being suppressed, but because I looked at silver when it was $20-something an ounce and said, it seems like it should be higher than this knowing what I know. And now it is higher than it was, and I am happy that I bought some. So I do think silver is a strong buy overall. The question is it a strong buy at $50 an ounce? And that's yet to be determined. I'm not going to tell you my personal opinion of where silver is going. I'm not going to tell you a number that I think it's going to go to. But I will tell you an important piece of data that will put perspective on the spot price when all the hype is telling you that silver is at all-time highs. Because yes, silver has hit the highest dollar amount it's ever been at, but technically it's not at new highs. Remember, silver's almost hit $50 on two separate occasions. In 2011, it got to $49 and what was it, 45 cents, something like that, so pretty darn close. And in 1980, it got to $49.85, I think it was, somewhere right in that range. It almost hit 50 on both occasions. Well, inflation is a real thing, and $50 in both of those time periods is completely different than what $50 is today. $50 in 2011 is the equivalent of $72 today. $72. So in my opinion, until we hit $72, we're not seeing people spend the same amount of purchasing power on an ounce of silver as they did in 2011. $50 in 1980 would be $196 today. $196. That's insane. Can you imagine paying $200 silver? I can't, and that's way far from where we are now. So yes, we are in uncharted territory numerically for silver, but we're not in uncharted territory for the dollar adjusted for inflation. And it also means that I, as well as a bunch of other dealers, had a complete blind spot when it came to selling silver and recommending which products our customers buy. Never would have saw it coming that they would stop buying generic but still buy sovereign silver, like actual silver coins, like American Silver Eagles and Maples. None of us saw that coming. That is completely new. I told people for years, if you're looking to strictly get quantity, go with the generic. But the trade-off that I saw with it was that the security features, without actually testing the metal and having a way to do that, the security features for world coins that were bullion was a lot easier to recognize and a lot harder to fake. That it's a lot easier to spot a fake eagle or a fake maple if someone knows what they're doing than it is to spot a fake 1 ounce buffalo. I had no clue that I should have been telling my customers over the past 4 years that when it spikes to $50, you better hope you have government, because that extra premium that we charge for it will actually guarantee that you're able to sell it when it hits $50 an ounce. Because now all those people who bought the generic are going to have the situation where they don't know if they're going to get anywhere close to $50 an ounce out of it, depending on where they are and who the dealer is and what happens. Now, there is a silver lining to this. We don't know how long it's going to last. In fact, it might actually cause a bounce. It might actually be beneficial to the people who have that kind of stuff, because people are still buying silver. There are videos online of people waiting outside of coin shops to get in to buy silver, and I don't think they're strictly staged. There is a demand for silver because people do not trust the dollar. There's a reason it's hitting $50 an ounce. It's not because everybody's selling. That would make it go down, because there is a potential that bullion dealers online as well as in person could run out of silver if enough people buy it. It might mean that this lack of purchase from the refineries and lack of purchase from the wholesalers could drive the price up more, because if there is a demand for it and the refineries don't have it to ship because they haven't been buying it, that there might not be enough silver to meet demand. So it might actually cause a further spike in silver and actually work in favor of those who do end up holding on to it. But we don't even know that $50 is going to be the top, and that's what I want to get at with the whole 8-ball here. I could shake this thing and ask it, is it going up or not? And I really don't know. But with the strength of silver we've seen so far, I will say I would not be surprised if it did go up more. I would not be surprised if 50 was a stepping stone to where it's going, although I don't know for certain, and I would never tell anybody I know or even have an inkling to say anything definitive. And I definitely would never be so bold as to put a price point on it, because nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. I would not be surprised if we see higher prices than $50 an ounce myself. which is why I don't tell people these days that I think it's a bad idea to buy silver. I always think silver should be bought cautiously and with a mindset of dollar cost averaging to a good price over time. If it's high right now compared to what it's going to be next month, then you should buy more next month than you bought now. If you buy it now and then you buy more next month, you average out the price to a more realistic price point of where it could move to in the future. And the more you buy at lower prices balances out what you bought at higher prices, and it just makes sense. It's dollar cost averaging, and I do believe in that because it's worked for me over the years in buying silver. If silver moves up from where it is now, then maybe you buy a little bit less as it goes up and you scale it back a little bit. Maybe you have a set dollar amount that you spend every month on silver, and whatever you can get out of that, that's what you buy. But if it goes down really low, then you spend more than your set dollar amount, because then you're really stacking up a lot of ounces to balance out what you got, and you end up really bringing your overall costs down for your entry point on silver. So for people getting into it for the first time, it's uncomfortable territory to be in, to get into silver for the first time. I agree. And that's why I don't recommend people dump every dollar they have into silver and gold right now. Even though I could make more money doing so, and I could say, oh, you should come and put everything into silver and bring them into the shop, buy it all, it's worth it. I don't recommend that, because I would be lying to my customers. That's not what I think. I think if you buy it consistently over time, you're safer that way. Because if you put everything you've got into it now, at this price, and it does come down, that's not good. You're really putting yourself in a predicament. But if you put something into it now, and something into it next week, and next week, and next week, and you buy it, scaling it up or down based on whether the price is going up or down, and you really scale it to where you're building a long-term value of the silver with dollar cost averaging it, then over time it's probably going to look really good for your overall cost of silver, as well as if you have the realistic mindset that silver is not a quick flip. It is not something to buy today and sell tomorrow. It's not even something to buy today and sell next year, although if you bought a year ago now, you could sell it now. A little bit different context there. It's something that you buy planning to hold on to for a very long time, in my opinion. It's something to buy as a hedge against the dollar for the dollars that you have in your bank account. It's something you buy as a protection against inflation. It's something you buy knowing that over the course of your lifetime, it will hold and grow in value. So that's silver in a nutshell right now. Silver is wild. Gold, on the other hand, it's pretty much run-of-the-mill gold right now. Apart from being double what it was just a couple years ago, gold is still being bought and sold pretty strongly with none of these qualms from the refiners yet of not wanting to buy gold at these prices. In fact, we can't get enough gold, it feels like. Even at $4,000 an ounce, I still have people wanting to buy gold, and sometimes we're having people want more gold than we even have. And so it's still running really strong, and people don't seem to be having any qualms with gold at these prices at double what it's ever been at before. But all that being said, I hope it gives you a little bit of a different perspective from just all the other stuff you might be hearing, where people start looking at charts and talking about suppression and talking about the gold to silver ratio and how this has to balance in some capacity at a better number for gold to move or do this or that or the other. I don't think any of that's really what it is. And I really caution you from taking too much stock in that kind of thing, because everybody who's talking about that are saying it's being manipulated by somebody, yet they're telling you factors you should look for price value as if it's not. So you can either believe it's manipulation and still see the exact same effect as if you believe it's not manipulation, that silver is going to do what the market dictates it do at any given time, with the factors of people either believing in it or not, and economic factors around it and everything else, and it's going to do what it does, and we don't know what that is. We just have to wait and see, and either invest in it or not. And that's just it. And I hope this has also helped you to understand why your dealer might be a little bit further back of spot than he was a couple weeks ago, and why your dealer might be a little bit less excited when you bring in $500 face value in silver quarters. It might be very uncomfortable for them to buy it because they just don't know what they can do with it or how long it's going to last. And so that's just what's happening there. Anyway, if this video's helped you out in thinking about silver and gold and all the crazy stuff going on in the market today, I would greatly appreciate a like. Also, if you want to see more content like this where I talk about silver, such as an upcoming video I'm going to have very soon where I talk about a strategy I'm implementing myself in the midst of this, where I'm both buying and selling silver at the same time, and I'm not doing any special magical arbitrage where I'm making money. I'm simply moving what I have into something different in what I think is a hedged and safer bet for the stuff that I have in my safe. If you want to see that video, as well as some others coming up about this topic, be sure to hit the subscribe and notifications buttons below so you'll be notified when those videos come out. Thanks for watching the video, and good luck in figuring out what the heck to do with your precious metals these days.